what you got. Don't sweat it until you hit the top. Work with what you got. Don't forget it till you hit the spot. Gotta work with what you got. Don't sweat it until you hit the top. Work with what you got. Don't forget it till you hit the spot. Work with what you got. Work with what you got. Work with what you got. Work with what you got till you hit the spot.
Hey, welcome to July. Ooh, oh, here we go. Let me get in the proper camera position. Hey, welcome to Next Up Accessories, where we connect your next up and vehicle personalization. I am David Stringer, and I am just coming off a little bit of a vacation. Can you tell? A little bit tanner, hair's a little bit longer. I did shave, so thank you, Chris Dorton, for calling me out on my Grizzly Adams look. So happy 4th of July. Hopefully everybody has had a great and safe 4th of July. Hello, Kevin. Let's see. I also see Alice is in the house. Leslie is in the house. Thank you all for joining in. Shout us out in the comments. So we have a little bit of a different setup today. Today is going to broadcast a podcast that we just dropped. It's our Next Up Accessories. It's our last pre-recorded Next Up Accessories audio with Eric Gonzalez. And let me tell you, this was such a great interview with Eric. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I think if you saw him on that show, you got to really sense that he is a tremendous person in the auto industry. And listen, I'd buy like 6 cars from that guy. So, and he'd sell me all the accessories in the world too, because he brings a very specific perspective and a way that he does things that builds accessories and personalization into the wholesale. So I encourage you to stick around and listen to that podcast. You can listen to it here live. We're going to do it as a live show. You can also go out to YouTube later and listen to it there, pre-recorded, not live because it's live now. And then you can also go onto any of our platforms where we have any of the podcast platforms where our podcast is there. All right. So, hey, Cameron, where'd you go? Oh, there it is. Thank you, sir. Okay. And a shout out to Cameron, our technician in the background, Cameron Corcoran, making everything happen. I want to give a great shout out to him because I came back from vacation. I sent him a message this morning and said, by the way, what are we doing for the show? He's like, don't worry about it. Got it all taken care of. I was like, perfect. Thank goodness. So didn't have to do anything for this show, just have to show up and I was going to say look pretty, but that's, sorry, Chris, not happening. Sorry. Anywho, so I want to give a shout out to, okay, wait, I'm going to take a time out because I see a comment from, literally I was having a conversation on the automotive on Facebook. Oh, hey, Kevin, thanks for tuning into that automotive network group. Make sure you promote us. We would appreciate that. So we are going to, so let me get back on track. Roger Schmidt, one of our great VPEs, been with the company several years now, been in the automotive industry, I think since he was like 6. He may or may not have been born actually in a dealership, in a car. That is all a joke. I'm totally kidding. Roger's a great, sweet guy. And he has some great case studies going, one of which is a previous guest on the show. Duh, that's why we had him on the show. Peter Booth and the Wild Easttown Honda store. Roger gave a shout out this week to that store for an incredible June. I mean, in a pandemic, in having to wear masks everywhere now, and they're still crushing it with accessory sales on vehicles. So it just tells you that despite the fact that these are new normal times, customers are still eager to personalize their vehicle. Easttown Honda proved that, up 250% over last year when we didn't have a pandemic going on and you could just buy cars whenever you wanted to. Now we have, this store really crushing it. I think it's because Peter was on the show and he picked up all kinds of good best practices, took them back to his store and implemented them. So we're going to take all the credit in the world. So Peter, you're welcome. I'm kidding. Peter is a great guy. He's a great leader in that store, and they were already doing a tremendous job. And Roger has helped them to continue to up that level of performance. So I also want to, next slide, Mr. Cameron. Also want to point out a great best practice that Roger brings into his stores when he trains. So part of the job of a VPE is to work with the management all across the store, not just the sales department, not just the parts department, but all across the store. Work with them to help them understand the benefits of vehicle personalization across the entire dealership. That's what makes this business so special. And that's why we say it's not rocket science. It is technical though, and it is a little bit complicated. And one of the great things that Roger brings into his stores is the perspective that you can begin to develop an accessories program that supports the service department in a big way, because you always have new techs coming in. You always have techs that have up and coming, not fully experienced, not an A tech, right? They are a C tech, or they just came into the business. This is a great way to keep them very busy, is installing accessories. Accessories are generally not complicated items to install, especially, bed liners and running boards and bug shields, bed visors, mud flaps. These are relatively easy things to install as a general rule. Now you get into remote starts and really some of the tuning stuff, cool air intakes, all that kind of stuff. You're gonna have a B or an A tech doing those jobs, and you can keep a C tech or a new tech, up and coming learning tech, really busy if you have an engaged group in your front of your store selling accessories. So I think that is a great example of how vehicle personalization really touches all of the dealership. And I believe it was Eric. Yes, I believe it was Eric, and I believe it comes in this podcast. He says, if your sale doesn't touch your car sale, speaking to salespeople out there, if your car sale doesn't touch every department before that car rolls over the curb, you haven't done your job. And that is a fantastic way to look at this, and picking up on Roger's best practice, really helping to develop that skill set in the service department. Okay, so we've got some comments. Jason Ludwig's in the house. Communication is key, says Chris Dorton. That's right. Oop, hang on, I gotta reposition so I can see my comments and the camera at the same time. Yes, Leslie, thanks for joining in. All right, so what we're gonna do now is gonna be a little bit different show. We are going to rebroadcast the pre-recorded Next Up Accessories. This is going to be the last of the pre-recorded Next Up Accessories, because we are transitioning Next Up Accessories to this webcast. So from here on out, it will always be a live interview session, and then we will post that audio and video on YouTube and on Facebook as a general rule. So without further ado, Mr. Cameron, take it away. And what I mean by that is get me off the camera and put that great podcast on. And I hope you all enjoy.
You gotta work with what you got. Don't sweat it until you hit the top. Work with what you got. Don't forget it until you hit the spot.
Welcome to Next Up Accessories, where we connect your next up and vehicle personalization to help you make more money and happier customers. What is vehicle personalization? That's a process in your showroom where you present customization to your buyer. It's a proven methodology to increase your paycheck, give customers what they want, and skyrocket your CSI scores. For more information about vehicle personalization and how you can get your dealership making happier customers, check us out at insigniagroup.com. If you're a customer of Insignia, thank you for your business, and you're not reading our blogs, which is full of best practices, then click through our website and subscribe. Check us out on social media, especially our YouTube page. We've got a series of videos there, so make sure you subscribe there as well. We want to thank Side Hustle for the use of their song, Work With What You Got. Seems very appropriate for the car business. Find them online at sidehustletheband.com. All right. This is episode, 6 or 7? Cameron, what is it? It's a lot, he says. So welcome to the podcast, Next Up Accessories. And I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to share some behind the scenes information here. We started this podcast with a goal of reaching out to salespeople in dealerships. You guys are the backbone of the industry, and we've really seen that in the last few weeks, especially with everything that's been going on. We did some research here, and we saw that there are over 250,000 dealership salespeople in the US alone. 250,000. That's a great audience, and we felt there wasn't a lot of content being made, especially for salespeople in mind. Well, here at Next Up Accessories, we want to change that. We want to highlight the backbone of our industry, the shining examples, the shooting stars, and the heavy hitters. And oh boy, do we have a prime example of a stellar salesperson with us today. Welcome to the show, Eric Gonzalez. Eric grew up in a military family and always wanted to be around cars. He bought his first car in 1981, Chevrolet El Camino. We are totally going to talk about that at age 16, and still has it today. Still going to talk about that. After high school, he studied music education and began teaching after finishing his bachelor degree. So you know he can teach us a thing or two. After 16 years of teaching, Eric took a chance and learned about dealership life. With his love of Subaru vehicles, he figured that it would be a great place to start. He has now been in the industry for 7 years and currently working at LaFontaine Automotive Group as a sales outfitter. We're going to talk about that title. And get this, Eric here at one point sold over $58,000 in accessory sales in 1 year, just by himself. Now that is music to my ears. So, Eric, thank you for all the hard work and selling accessories, and even bigger thank you for joining our show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And let's step a little bit farther back and get to know you a little bit better. I would imagine as a military family, you moved around a lot. I've got family that was in the military and they moved around a lot. So if I asked you, where are you from? Is that probably a complicated answer?
No, at the time I was born in 1975, and we were stationed in Virginia Beach at the time. And then we were, Dad was going to be out on the USS Saratoga. So I was flown with my mother over to Muskegon, Michigan. And that's where our family's all from. So that's where I consider home. So if somebody goes, where's your hometown? I call it Muskegon, Michigan. I currently live in a town called Chesterfield, Michigan, which is metropolitan Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, fantastic. And what made you pick education as your major as you were going through college?
Well, when I was graduating high school, my father asked me and said, "What do you think you want to do?" I said, "Well, I think I'd like to be an auto mechanic." He was a jet mechanic in the Navy, so it made sense. And he's like, "Well, great, you're going to go to college and then you can do whatever you want, but you're going to get an education." I said, "Okay." Well, I was heavily involved in band and school and music, and was teaching lessons to other students that were struggling in high school while I was in high school. And I got involved and started studying in college and said, "Hey, this is a career path for me," and got involved with it. And just, it was a great life lesson. And it was the only class that I could think of when you're a student in the class. If this student gets an A, and that student gets an F, well, you get your grade that was awarded to you. But in a band room, you get an A, you get an F, and you both share in the misery. So that's a true life lesson. Sometimes you're driving a car and you get rear-ended and it wasn't your fault. That's a life lesson. Sometimes you got to learn, before it actually happens. So
that's awesome.
Got involved with education and never really looked back until it was time to move on.
Very cool. Now, in the band in high school, what instrument did you play?
My major instrument is trumpet. I play violin and piano as well, but I was a trumpet major.
Nice. My middle daughter played trumpet all through high school, and now she plays at the College of Charleston in the pep band trumpet. And my oldest daughter played saxophone for also in the band. So I know that band family commitment well.
It's a lot of it, for sure.
So tell me about the 81 Camaro. What color, first off?
Well, it's an 81 Chevy El Camino.
El Camino, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. It's a slight difference. One thinks it's a truck and the other knows what kind of car it is.
Exactly, very.
Yeah, I bought it when I was turning 16 years old, and down in Memphis, and there's no salt, so that was a good idea to find a vehicle down there before moving up to Michigan, where everything rotted away because they used salt to melt the snow. And I really wanted like a 48 to 53 5-window Chevy pickup, and none of them were roadworthy to drive up here. And we found an El Camino, and my grandmother had a couple of them, and I just thought they were neat. So I bought one and drove it up here, and up here is where it sits. So I've had it. I'm 45 years old now. I've had it from 16 to 45, and it was the first car I ever owned. Yeah, it's been great. No rust on it at all. Everybody, when I moved up here, kept trying to buy my bumpers. I'm like, no, get your own bumpers.
What color is it again?
It's a metallic silver.
Silver. Nice. Cool. Very good. There's a lot of commonality between you and my uncle from the standpoint that he was also military family. He was a chief master sergeant, so he worked on planes in the Air Force, kind of like your dad. And he loved to repair cars. And his son had at one time, it was a 60-something Dodge Dart, I think it was. And it was like, totally cherry, and they had totally rebuilt it. And so have you done like work on this car, or have you just really just taken care of it?
No, it was a bit of a family project. I learned to work on engines. There was it was originally a 305 4-barrel car, and none of those were very good at all. So that motor had to come out, and my grandfather had a couple tow trucks sitting in the woods. So we took a motor out of the tow truck and bored it out and cleaned it up and had some heads machined and put together. And my dad, of course, and grew up doing all that sort of thing. My grandfather knew how to work on anything, and I got to learn right on along. And my uncle at the time owned a body and collision shop, so we were able to get the bodywork spruced up. There was no rust on it, so it wasn't like a major body project. But It's got a refreshed engine in it, and it's got some nice paint on it, and that's how it sits. Got my Krager Street Pros on it. Love the old vintage type wheels.
Sweet. That's awesome. That is beautiful. I love it. And you keep it in a garage and everything, I assume.
Oh yeah, it's sitting in a garage. Haven't driven it in a few years. It's about time, but it's still here and still with me.
So Eric, making the transition from music teacher, teaching music into the car business, tell me what that transition was like.
It was a little easier than I thought. I was looking to leave education. And like a lot of other teachers around here, they're looking for something else to do. Education's getting, it's always been strenuous, but it's getting difficult now. There's a lot of pressures and stuff, and not a whole lot of help. And I said, let's give it a shot. And I walked into a Subaru dealership that was opening, and I just made them take me. And they took a chance. Quite literally, that's how it happened. I just made them take me, and they hired me. And thank goodness. And I had a couple of really dynamic leaders in the field that were able to kind of get me moving along and show me a bit of a path on how to do things different. And the way I see it is I'm still educating people. They come into and they're like, hey, I've heard of Subaru. I've read about them. What do we do? How do I go about this? What's new? What do you guys do? Go. So I got to, present, essentially an anticipatory set and a lesson plan to somebody who wants to walk around on a Subaru vehicle. And hey, here's our car. And then it became pretty easy early on to figure out how to make them individual, being how my El Camino sitting in the garage is not a stock car. It's been accessorized, to fit my needs, to outfit my needs. So we were able to figure out early on between myself and my mentors that I got to work with, hey, I've got something here I can be successful with based on my experiences in the past in education, and let's put it together and let me go and see how it is I can help do auto sales differently, be less typical, I guess we could say.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I want to kind of dial in on the mentor part of it. Where when you say mentors, who were those folks in the dealership? Was it a manager? Was it another salesperson?
So just about everybody in the dealership that I started with was new to auto business. We had a service manager that was experienced. We had a fixed ops director that was experienced. We had a general manager who had his hand in a bunch of things automotive related and just kind of knew people and things inside and out. He was pretty instrumental in helping me out. And we had a gentleman who, Patrick Hennessy was his name, was our general sales manager, and Ron Redfern was our general manager. Those guys were pretty instrumental in helping me see that I could do this, that there's a path that I could follow, and that there can be success in this field for me when all I had known is a teaching position. So Patrick had moved on now and had since become a national trainer for a major bank, and got replaced with a gentleman named John Bauer, who had brought me over to the LaFontaine Auto Group where I currently reside. And I learned quite a bit from him. He grew up in the auto business. His uncle owned a dealership, and he's young. He's younger than you would think for someone in that type of position, but he's very experienced and trustworthy. And trust was key. Trust was what sells everything. If you believe in their vision and what it is that they're doing, and get out of their way and let it happen, then you can ride on along and learn from what it is that they've got going on and grow together.
That's awesome. It sounds very atypical from what I've heard as the typical experience of a new person in the automotive industry. I mean, especially these days, the joke is, fixed ops won't learn your name at the front of the store until you've been there at least a year. So what you experienced really was quite unique. It sounds to me from my experience in the industry, it's quite unique in the terms of the leadership that you had that were looking for a different way to present vehicle sales rather than that pressure cooker. It's on the board, get out there, get your next up, be on the phone, call, get people in the store, close. It sounds like you took an approach that, I mean, it's fascinating. It's more of a teaching approach. So somebody comes on the lot, and that's to you, a student. And I think that's a pretty clever way of approaching that whole situation.
I was fortunate that the model allowed me to do so because, I approached the business as a consumer. I was the one looking for cars, and I was a car guy. So anytime I would go to purchase a vehicle, I was able to go and I knew what I was looking for. I didn't need to be sold. I was there because I already knew what I wanted. So
Yeah.
with the dealer allowing me, the sales model that we had at that time was relationship selling, so to speak, meaning we wanted, the client to feel as if they're important, not just call, sell. Why are they buying from us? What makes us different? What makes us less typical? And it was, that's really, in my opinion, customer retention is probably one of the biggest indicators of how successful you are as a salesperson. You can go and close 20 deals a month, and that's a high volume guy in our brand in this area. I mean, this is Detroit, Michigan. This is all Ford, General Motors, Chrysler Corporation stuff. So for Subaru to be doing as well as we are is a real testament to the sales model and the brand. But if you're able to close all those deals and you can't hang on to customers, eventually, that you're going to run out of people to sell to because they won't come back. So that was something that we started watching early on, is when the dealer was opening, was how can we measure our success as a salesperson when you have no prior book of business, and it was customer retention. When people were coming in going, you know what, I'm getting an oil change, I see the new stuff. What's my car? Oh, your resale value is very high. Great, that's fantastic. You know what? Let's take one home for the night. Let me know what you think. And we started noticing people bringing people in, and hey, it's working. The less typical approach to selling cars, not the pressure cooker as you mentioned. Close, sell, call. Sometimes you got to look to what it is that people are actually really needing. What's making them want to come to you? Well, the car, because it's a long-term relationship. Average Subaru customer, Subaru says, keeps the car for at least 7 years. I drive an '05 with 226,000 miles on it. So I'm a little, maybe less typical, but you've heard of us, Subaru guys keeping these cars for a long time. So you play to that. You learn a little bit about all facets of what makes Subaru important. They like to camp. Great. You know what? I've been camping. Let's do this. I like to fish. I like to hunt. And you relate with them and you kind of help them paint a picture and help see themselves in what it is that they can do and live with this car, because it's just not a piece of transportation. It can't be. Otherwise, it's the same as everything else. And that's why we call ourselves sales outfitters, is that how can we outfit the car to be a part of your lifestyle? And the accessory sales, you know, you're going to need some crossbars. You're going to need roof racking accessories or trailer hitch to pull your little pop-up camper or something like that. It's all painting an image for these folks when you set it up and how they can see themselves in it and from start to finish.
So now becomes clear to me how you got to such a huge number alone, 58,000 in 1 year in accessory sales. Your whole approach is built upon vehicle personalization, which is wonderful. I wish I could teach your entire dealership philosophy to all of our customers. So am I right? I mean, there's nothing special about, I think this is kind of an interesting way to approach this conversation, and a way I'm going to say it in what sounds negative, but actually it's very positive. In a way, selling accessories is no big deal to you, right? Because it's part of the process. It's part of the DNA of what you're talking about here, correct?
It is. If somebody was to ask me, I would probably pretend to not tell them and make them think it's some deep mystic technique of artistic salesmanship of selling a trailer hitch. But it's really not. It's all making it personal to the customer. When you get home with the car, you don't want to go, I should have got a trailer hitch. And then they're going to go down the road to one of the, trailer hitch installing people and have something put on that's going to be a subpar accessory. Or I wish I would have got those body side moldings. Maybe I wouldn't have got a door ding in my car. People leave dealerships all day long and not being given the opportunity to protect the car. Wouldn't you want to protect the car, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Why not give them the opportunity to do so? So when they're picking up the car, you pick up on cues as to what it is they're looking for. If you don't ask what they're going to use the car for, how do you know what kind of car they need? They got 5 kids. You're not looking at the compact model.
Yeah.
Hey, you got 5 kids. You probably want to get the heck away every once in a while. Are you telling something with it? You doing this? Do you drive it up north a lot? What are we doing with it? How is the car part of your life? And in the future, what would make it of more value to you to hang on, bring it back to the dealership, have service the car for any length of time, take advantage of our resale value, pick out another one, and involve the personal process all over again.
Yeah. Well, in order to do that, clearly this is a reflection of how comfortable you were in the idea that your customer was going to add something to their vehicle, whatever it was. You had the preconceived notion that they were going to personalize. Now, that could be a little bit of the brand. From my experience, Subaru buyers are the most preconditioned to vehicle personalization, right? So could be a little bit of the brand. And I think your comfort level would have to have been supported by your fixed operations group. So tell me about your fixed operations group from the standpoint of how they make sure to support you in your comfort level of offering that trailer hitch, offering those roof rails, and being able to deliver on the back end. I mean, one of the major challenges that we always have to get over when we consult with a new customer is, okay, we have to make peace between sales and service. Sales, parts, and service has to come together and make peace. And it sounds like out the gate, your team was already of one mind about offering accessories. So can you tell us a little bit about the process once they say, yes, I'd like that trailer hitch? What's it like for your fixed operations group?
So I view the process as kind of a reciprocal of what you're talking about, rather than making peace with them, which my heart always lays with the guys turning the wrenches. I love the guys that get up every morning and work on the cars. It's difficult. It's always changing. Somebody brought you in something that their brother tried to fix, and now you got to deal with that. I've always got along with those people. Even though I worked in the world of academia, It was still my friends were the custodians, that worked and, talk about catching a bass on the weekend or something like that. So I had a mentor that worked with me, and I'd mentioned him earlier. His name was John Bauer, and taught me how my activities touch every department. I didn't know how dealerships worked. I didn't know. All I knew is sit at that desk, be good at what you do. A lot of people want your job or you're out of here. All right. So I guess I better do pretty good. And I did. I was able to, that's pretty typical. So I became friends with a lot of the guys that were working on it. Just got to know them because there is a separation between sales staff and fixed ops. A lot of sales guys are like, hey, just clean this up for me or get this on for me or just do something, with not understanding what it is that they're actually doing back there. There's a customer waiting for them to fix their car.
Mm-hmm.
With these folks being friends of mine, I wanted to work for them to help them guys out. So if I could sell more accessories, my friend in parts made more money off of my efforts selling, and my friends in service made more money or service hours installing these accessories. My goal was to make sure those guys couldn't sit down, idle, and have nothing to do. If I had anything to say about it, I wanted to sell enough accessories on these cars and sell enough cars to accessorize so that they were always busy doing something back there, because it always helped them out in their pocketbooks. It wasn't me trying to find a way to get along with them. I was trying to figure out how to bridge a gap between the two departments and work for them. Now, most salespeople don't probably see it that way, but like I said, I was a teacher, not a salesperson.
That would be a major takeaway that I would say, hey, salespeople that are out there, listen to this point of view and go into work tomorrow with a different perspective on the folks in service and in parts. Now, I'm going to be a little cynical. Eric, sounds like a lot of kumbaya. You might feel great about those folks, but how was that really reciprocated to you? How did you see that once you had that attitude of, hey, I'm out here to sell as much as I can to help those folks in the back? How did you see that reciprocated to you in terms of just the process they would go through to deliver? Again, you're relying on them to deliver, and how did they do that?
Well, at the end of the day, if you need something done in a hurry, and you've shown that you don't take their work for granted, and you appreciate what they do and see it as equally important as what it is that you're doing. If you need something done in a pinch, they're gonna want to work for you. All's the same. Like I made the comment earlier about a reciprocal relationship. If I can do for them, they'll be more willing to do for me based on their time and needs. So if I have to have something done in a hurry and need service to help out, that whole department from management all the way through to the techs that would be doing the work know that, hey, I really need this or I wouldn't be asking, and they will oblige and help out. No, ultimately, it's not them versus me. This is all for the customer. That's why we're there.
It's the one team, right?
Yes. If they can understand what their work is and see an output, they like to see the car fixed and down the road, rather than just get done with it and next. You got to take a look and see what their relationship is in the whole part of the sales process. And if we take from the service side of fixing a car, if we remove that and just look at the service side of them installing accessories and that whole relationship between a sales outfitter and service and the customer, if a salesperson never explains to them, hey, when you do this, this is the result, to them it's just maybe hanging a trailer hitch, and they may not care, and they'll get their labor pay for it and go on down the road. But again, you want to look to customer retention. If a customer ever has to talk to the technician, and that's something we try to do too, is keep a technician in line with a customer and the service advisor, so that they can, kind of like your doctor that you go to. He knows, he remembers you, and he knows the whole cycle of what's going on. If the tech can know that this person is going to be coming back to them, if they do a good job, maybe ask to talk to them if something's going on with it and say, hey, what can I do to prevent this from happening in the future? Then they can see the outcome of their work rather than just look at an installed accessory. They can see the difference that they've made in providing some kind of a service that will serve a family and make them want to come back and hopefully go through the whole process again and make it personal.
So clearly your approach has provided you great success, I would say, in terms of just, what you're talking about and the attitude. Are you a unicorn in this dealership? Does everybody feel this way about, how to present accessories, or are you the unicorn in the group? So a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek question, of course.
It is. The auto group I work at now is a very talented group. The owners are kind of unique in their vision, as best I can tell. I actually interviewed with Mr. LaFontaine when I'd come over here and got to learn, and he was a complete different person than what I thought. He was really an incredible gentleman. He really was inviting, asked me what I want to know about what it is that they do, and there was just a bunch of things that someone in his position did not have to be, and he was. The owner of LaFontaine Auto Group, I can't say enough good things about the company. The dealership that I work at, LaFontaine Subaru, it's a different philosophy of dealership from what it is that I was used to, and I'm slowly melding my way into what it is that I do there. As far as attitude towards the accessories and whatnot, everybody's got a different way of doing things in our dealership, and they have ways of making things work for them. There's some talented people in our group. We've got a gentleman named Jordan Schultz as our new general sales manager. Jason Fox is our sales manager, and Mr. Scott Tarwacki is our general manager. All those guys, I never have to worry about going to them and say, hey, here's what it is I'd like to do. They'll listen to me as a professional, and whether I'm right or wrong, they'll find a way to help us succeed in terms of, hey, this is what it's going to take to get this job done, or you don't know this yet here, but this is what works in this situation. And as far as accessory sales go, I still think I look at it a little differently than other people do, just based on my history. No one else there was a school teacher and sees it as teaching a lesson plan. I do. I don't see it as selling an accessory. I've always been accused of thinking a little different anyways, no matter what it is I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, when you hit that high mark of 58,000, was that due to just volume sales that just gave you more opportunities, or did you have just a good string of folks that said, "Yep, give me everything"? What was this? If you can look back, what was the secret to that success?
Well, I remember that. I remember the year, and I remember everything that was going on, and it was a combination of really everything. If they call it the perfect storm or whatnot, but there was a fair amount of volume. I was doing pretty good volume, but was comfortable enough with the other things I had going on around me to where it wasn't a concentrated effort. I didn't have to worry about selling. That was happening. I was able to make those relationships, close deals, and never ask for the sale. They were falling that way with me, and it was the involving people in the personalization process and whatnot. So I was able to turn to painting pictures, as I would call it. And like, how do you see it? It's like listening to a piece of music. We all know that, whether people work out to the Rocky theme song or something like that, different pieces of music help paint different pictures in people's minds, and they perceive things differently. If I can take and put on a performance like that for people and help them see that picture in their mind of how they can use that car, then, hey, this is great. Why wouldn't I want it? When you go look at a new house and new construction, you walk into the model and you see it with all the nice stuff and all of the options that you didn't know you needed. And then you go to pick up your house and you're like, okay, so do you want that nice sink? Wait a minute, it doesn't come with that? Oh, you mean I can't have it? And that's key. If you tell the folks, hey, this is missing this. They don't like knowing that they can't have something because they're there to get something. Hey, I'm the buyer. I've got the power here. Hey, this one doesn't have this. Oh, doesn't? Why doesn't it? Well, just didn't come with it. I mean, you're going to want that, right? They move on to, well, it's supposed to have it. I want it. Okay, let's get it. And there's a lot of power in a customer not being able to have something when they're there to buy. If they can't have it, well, then they want what everybody else has got. What are people getting on this stuff? How do I protect my car? I want it. And you just make it available to them and see how it fits in a part of what it is they're going to do with the car, and don't overburden them with stuff they don't need.
Tell us about, so one of the things we try to impress upon a new salesperson when we're talking to them is that, look, the way car sales are going these days, the way that it's tough to make a commission. I mean, a lot of the formats of selling cars are going to straight salary and maybe bonuses. Pay plans are getting away from totally making money off of every car. How important was this, or is the vehicle personalization income that you get from selling accessories on your overall, real dollars and cents? I'm not looking for a dollar amount, of course. And what I'm looking for is, how important is it to you today? If you just suddenly stopped presenting accessories, what would that do to your income?
I would notice it. The group I'm with now, the group I'm with now here at LaFontaine Automotive Group, they get it. They really do. They've got a pay plan that falls across the way, and without getting too much into pay plans. They wouldn't want me to do that.
Sure. No.
They do understand that accessory sales are important because we do have Jeep dealerships. How many stock Jeeps have you seen driving down the road? Negative. None of them. They're all something.
Exactly.
Whether it be a smiley face on the tire cover or a Jeep upside down and flip me over or something like that, they all accessorize them. So we've got all these different dealerships that have personalized ideas, personalized brandings, and personalized accessories for these types of vehicles for different lifestyles. So they know that's important, and they know in order for the sales guys to go out and understand this, it's, hey, if this is how we're making money, let's find out. And from the personalization standpoint, each sales outfitter taking a look at themselves going, this is what it takes for me to make this make sense to the customers and also to profit. I mean, we're at work to make money. Profit's not a bad word, in my opinion, for anybody in any form of business. It's okay to make money and to provide fair deals. And if you can continue to do a volume of fair deals with folks, you'll make your money. You'll make a good income. The customers will leave happy and they'll come back and they'll do it again. But accessory sales for sure are a pretty good proportion of what it is that we would make as a sales outfitter at our dealership.
That's awesome. And it goes to that idea that, look, your customer is going to buy the vehicle from you. And then if you don't offer them the opportunity to do the things to it that they were going to anyway, then you're missing out on that income. You're missing out on your own personal income that they were going to do anyway. So you're not talking them into something they weren't going to do anyway. So make sure that if they're going to invest, it's almost like saying to a salesperson, look, if you could also sell them gas for the car for the rest of their ownership life, would you do that? And I think any smart salesperson who goes by numbers would be like, yeah, I would make money off the gas on the car for the rest of the ownership of that car. Of course I would do that. Well, okay. So if you're willing to buy in on the future of the car moving forward, literally, why wouldn't you buy into the future of the car and getting it set up the way the customer really wants it set up? So let's pretend that I'm a salesperson. I'm in a different dealership and I don't have any of the environment that you have. The nirvana of selling accessories and vehicle personalization environment. And I don't have any of that in my store. And I'm coming to you, Eric, to say, what can I do? What would you tell me?
First of all, don't fall for the
leave the store.
Yeah.
I was about to say leave the store.
Not that one. And like I said, don't fall for the left-handed screwdriver trick. There's no such thing. That's another good one. Blinker fluid, all this other, getting the new guy playing pranks on them.
That's right.
Everybody's got an answer for everything and how they want something to be done because they sometimes like to feel, looked important. Hey, I look at that guy. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I better follow him around. For anybody wanting to get into car sales, if you are interested in building personal relationships, you'll do well. And that's got to be it. You can't be afraid to not succeed. If you're afraid to not succeed, you'll typically find a way to not succeed. It's like driving down the road. If you look at something you want to drive around, the car just somehow magically follows that path. It's very, very weird. But for somebody, it is. For somebody getting into the car business, if they are able to forge personal relationships, and not everybody is. It's like I used to tell students, not everybody's ready to be a leader. And my definition of a leader is somebody that does things that others don't want to do because it simply has to be done. There's no other definition other than that I can come up with. I like that. A mother is a leader. She has to change diapers. She doesn't want to, but it has to be done. And if you look, throughout history at leaders, typically we try to attack them. So being a leader is something difficult to want to desire to be. And as a car salesman or saleswoman or sales outfitter, whatever title you would bestow upon yourself, you have to view yourself as a leader. People are coming to you and they're vulnerable. They don't know what to do. They don't know necessarily what to get. Some people do, but not everybody. And if you're growing your brand, you better believe that not everybody knows what they want because, hey, I'm new. I've been buying this car my whole life. I saw in this particular article that this did this very well, and it sounds like something I want to know about. What do you got? Go. Well, it's up to that new guy to know the product, make sure the dealership around him gave him the ability to attain a technical facility to be able to understand and know his product, because he may have just been looking for a job and they hired him and he doesn't know anything about selling a Subaru or selling a Toyota or selling a Jeep, he might not know. And if you're not a car person, the learning curve is pretty big, and it's very steep, and it moves very, very quick, because somebody comes in the door, you got one shot. And one of my mentors early on that I'd mentioned used to say, what do you do when the ball is hit to you? The play is running, it's going, but what do you do when the ball is hit to you? Go. And that's the new guy. What does he do? The up comes in, ball is hit to him. Learn how to build personal relationships with people. That will ensure that, hey, you got to sell trust. They got to believe in you. They got to see your passion. They got to see your vision and become infectious to people. If they can see that in you, and you believe in yourself, that what you stand for, the product you represent, is in fact the right thing for this person, because you've dug and you found out how this car or truck or whatever the kind of vehicle it is fits their lifestyle, they would be hard pressed to leave and not buy from you. Or at most, if they go someplace and don't buy from you, I kind of want it to sting a little bit in the back of their head, like, oh man, I really like that guy. I feel bad. And that's all you can do. If they buy someplace else and you did your best and built a relationship and they trusted you, but they'll remember that. They're like, hey, you want one of those cars? You got to go see this guy. He was fantastic. We bought this because it wouldn't tow enough, and he didn't have something that could, but you got to go see him. Referrals, you want the referral business. You want the repeat business. It's all personal relationships.
I guess bringing us back to the here and now of, we are emerging from the pandemic quarantines, or emerging in the states opening up and finding a new normal. Everything we're seeing and reading is that, boy, this has really advanced the idea of online purchasing for vehicle sales. Talk to me a little bit about that in your mind. Have you thought about it? Does it make you nervous? Where are you on that spectrum of, we've maybe moved things forward a couple of years and people may buy online all the way through the process? How does that strike you?
I'm ready. I say, bring it on. I've sold entire cars through text messages and not ever met anybody before. And again, that falls into personalization, whether it be emails, on the phone. It's still hard for somebody to make that purchase. They say the second biggest purchase of their life without touching the metal, without driving the car. Yeah. And a lot of people will buy it on faith. Their neighbor had one. And again, that's the personal attention that a salesperson should be giving the person is the same attention our brand of Subaru gives to the client. They love their cars. That's why Subaru uses it, and a ton of their commercials love. It's important. They have to feel that personal bond. And it's, in my opinion, it's no different than a customer actually being in front of you, with the exception of you're not able to spot a car. If they're not with you, they're not physically there, you can't do it right now. So you got to find another way to secure that deal. Keep providing for them, be available to them on whatever form of communication that they want to communicate with, be it email or phone or whatnot. But it's our brand, and most of our buyers are quite adept to searching for their cars on the internet. They're already digital. That's already happening. We have a BDC, a business development center, in place that helps us sift through internet leads. We have chat rooms. So when this hit, and with all of our things that we have in place here with the LaFontaine Auto Group, and when we were able to open up, we were ready. I haven't noticed a difference, to be honest with you, except we just don't have the foot traffic coming through. We've already been operating with this model for quite some time. I've been with this particular group for about 8 months now, but been in the business for 7 years. And this auto group here, like I said, when this hit and we were able to sell cars again and nobody could come in, how did we handle it? Well, to us, it was kind of like business as usual. We were just understaffed. That's all.
So, Eric, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate being a part of this, and I certainly enjoy being able to tell my side of how it is I do my dealing with clients and building personal relationships with cars and accessories, and how it can better benefit a family with our vehicles. I appreciate you guys listening to me today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you. And the nuggets that I'm taking away from this conversation, I hope our listeners are also taking away. It's really that centerpiece of personal relationships, and the car sale, the vehicle personalization sale, it all flows together once you make those kinds of connections. So I think it's awesome. Podcast listeners, thank you for joining in as well. Until next time, I'm David Stringer, and this has been Next Up Accessories, where we connect your next up and vehicle personalization to help you make more money and happier customers. Thanks for tuning in. Every deal, every day. Bye-bye.